Hello and welcome to the latest MTD Podcast. My name is Joe Reynolds and I've got 25 years experience in manufacturing of all levels, from design and manufacturing, product development, sales, application, as well as management and ultimately marketing. I joined MTD 10 years ago to offer my experience of cutting tools and tooling to the businesses that we represent, and I've got a massive obsession of delivering for clients and the industry as a whole. Joining me today is a true gentleman in the industry. My words, not his. But Mike Stobart, he's got 40 years experience in technical sales of cutting tools of all types. Mike worked for a family cutting tool business that specialised in solution-based sales of threading tools at the time, covering the whole of the UK, including Scotland and Ireland. Mike joined Quickgrind in 2011 at their Tewkesbury factory to develop a new business in the south and later becoming the UK sales manager. And as we progress to today, he's developing the technical area support managers throughout the UK and Ireland. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Joe. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, how are things with you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, and I think we're using online media now, Skype, Zoom. We're all working from home, have been for over a week now. And obviously within the keep in contact with our clients, make sure everyone knows we're up and running and still functioning well.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Obviously, I've mentioned a bit about your background, but before we talk about Quickgrind, maybe we can start with Mike Stobart. Where did you start? What was your first job, and how have you progressed to where you are today?
Well, my first job was I was tidying out and mucking out bird aviaries, so I was about 14, but we won't go into that. So, engineering-wise, my father set up a tooling company specialising in threading, really. If you look at how crucial a thread is to just about any component, getting accurate and right wasn't always and still isn't always the easiest thing. So as I graduated into knowing what I was doing and what engineering was all about, I ended up going out and visiting clients and customers and building out good relationships, and found out I really enjoyed it. As you go along, the more questions you ask, the more you learn. So a bit of learning on the job, really. Threading actually became a really interesting side of the business. We dealt with all sorts of other cutting tools. We weren't just limited to that. So any kind of form tools, specials that need to be made, obviously milling and things like that. Indexable to a certain degree, but we tended to drift away from that at one point. And that went on for various forms for, goodness me, many years. Yeah, that went really well. So after that, I ended up working for a couple of German companies, opening up some of the branches and helping out there, until we ended up again with another version of the family business up until the time my father needed to retire. I basically had to kick him out just to stop him working. And then it was, what do we do now? And at that point was when Quickgrind contacted me. It was a very, very good friend of mine, Pete Malecki. A lot of people who listen to this in the engineering side will know Pete is a tremendous bloke, really knowledgeable. And you can't walk through an exhibition with Pete without him going, oh, that's so-and-so over there, and then he'll have a story about everyone. I expect he's got some stories about you, Joe, so be careful.
That'll be true.
That'll be good, yeah. That's when I met Eddie Howell at Quickgrind, and Eddie is the founder of the company. We had a good chat, and afterwards Pete said, I've got you here because I wanted to offer you a job. I'm like, okay, it's interesting, British company, hadn't really heard of Quickgrind, and which is why they were looking at how do we develop UK sales, because at that time 85% of the business was export. It's around 80% now as we've been developing UK sales.
As we move on to Quickgrind, it's a fascinating business, isn't it, Mike? To cutting tool manufacturer, yes. They make solid carbide products, yes. But there's a few companies that do that. Well, you are a little bit different, Mike, aren't you?
We are, yeah. And that's what really got me. After selling and supplying and cutting tools for so many years, it's all basically the same thing. Everyone would put different geometries on things, but it was all basically the same, and everyone did everything the same. Here's a catalogue. This is what you would like to supply you. And it works. There's no two ways about it. It works. But what I really liked the way Eddie and Ross, Eddie's son, he's the MD of the company now for many years now. I just like their ethos, which is like, we don't just want to say you what we want to make. We want you to tell us what you're trying to achieve and what you can't achieve with current suppliers. And then we'll basically make it for you. Always remember one of the phrases was, it's just a tool. We'll make it. And it's like, that's true.
That's exactly it. And when people are listening to this, typically the industry is known these products as being bespoke tools, special tools, which traditionally are fairly expensive unless you want a lot. And 9 times out of 10, there's a delivery issue as well. You have to wait for these tools. But that seems to be the problem that you guys have overcome.
Yeah, absolutely right, Joe. That's when Eddie founded the company over 50 years ago. Delivery on special tooling. Obviously, it's a very different world now than to what it is now. But deliveries were 6 to 8 months for specials. And Eddie was like, I can do better than that. And he took a gamble, went for it, and was very successful and has been still very successful. So we've never oversold the production. We invested in production capabilities and then go and get business. So we don't let our current client base down, and we can look for new business without upsetting existing business. And the delivery we always aim at, out and out, we call it a special, but it's a tool designed for an application for a job. The delivery is 2 to 3 weeks. Now, we have a priority service, which we can do, depending on the tool, if we can do it a few days, a week, if it's coated, that kind of thing. We have a very, very good relationship with our coating company. They collect and deliver 7:30 every morning. The van comes in. So we know that we can get good supplies. As far as supplies are concerned, we've always invested in stock. So we have 2 very large floor-to-ceiling Cardex systems, one full of blanks and the other one full of new tools, which obviously we put in. There's some standard ranges that we push, and it's a quick supply for some companies. But then if someone needs a bespoke tool and they're going to be using it regular, then we back up with stock.
That is one thing I'll mention about Quickgrind. I've walked around there many times and had real jobs and things, but since you've been working with MTD, I remember walking through there, and I can't remember if it was you or Ross, Mike, but you said, we're taking on next door, we're going to put a few machines in there.
Yeah.
That's good, that's a good bit of growth. You turn up 6 months later, you've taken on next door, it's all painted, and there's about 8 machines in there,
Yeah.
£2.5 million investment. Predominantly robot-fed machines.
Yeah.
And obviously the issues we've got now globally, which we won't go into, these robot-fed machines, you've got 20-odd machines, a lot of them robot-fed. It must be a big advantage at the moment.
It's huge, yeah. I sort of think, like you're saying, it reminds me, it's quick by name, quick by nature. If Ross and Eddie see a good reason to invest, they'll invest. In the last 2 years, it's about £2 million, around about £2 million worth of investment. So that's opening up the other side of the factory. So we own the whole site. When I joined, as you were saying, we were just operating from one side. As soon as we were able to move into the other side, then the last 3 machines we invested in were put into that site. And then before you know it, it's basically full now with all new machines and all the latest technology. So it's anchor grinding machines with laser adjustment on the tool and the...
Exactly. And the reason I wanted to get you on, really, great, let's talk about Quickgrind, but just how the industry's changed of recent years. There seemed to be a lull of 10, 15 years where cutting tools, of course it developed, coatings were getting better and better, but it was a bit of a lull. We had nothing new as such, did we? But this last few years, obviously barrel mills aren't particularly new, but certainly the medium to mass adoption is.
Yeah.
You're at the forefront of these barrel mills. So for the people that don't know what they are, conical barrel mills, lens tools and the like, can you just quickly give us an overview of what a barrel tool is, how you use it, and where it should be applied?
Well, exactly, Joe. That's the thing. I think what used to happen was as machines developed, then tooling had to develop with it. The more CNC machines were put into factories, the capabilities of those machines were outweighing what the current tools could do. So clever people like in Quickgrind develop tools around jobs and applications. And then, of course, clever programmers that we have nowadays, they come up with different ways of strategies of machining components. Everything about cycle time and throughput is initial. And obviously there's a lot of weight saving going on. So, and then I think what happened, everyone became a bit obsessed with roughing. How can we rough that part out as quick as possible and get to then a finishing stage? And then, great, that was a huge development. Variable flute and variable helix end mills came into play, where it used to be, we used to call them knuckle form tools in the old days. So, the roughing cutters, And then variable flute took over from that. It was a much more efficient way of producing. And then obviously you get your trochoidal milling, your peeling cut, what you want to call it. So removing material quickly to get it to a semi-finished stage was a priority, and everyone's done very, very well at that. Then you spend how many hours it is finishing the product. And as products develop and requirements develop, the finish of a product has become more and more important. And so where we came in with working with OpenMine as a company, OpenMine with a hypermill cam system, I was working with them before, and when I introduced them into Quickgrind, got Adrian Smith, the MD for OpenMine UK, and just to see what our capabilities were. And I lost him and Eddie for a while. They were just talking tooling and strategies, and I'm like, okay, fantastic. And then Adrian said, well, it's fantastic because the barrel tool development is going to be a huge way forward for a lot of companies. Obviously not immediately, because initially you need 5-axis, you need simultaneous 5-axis. There's a lot around, and that's a big seller, I think, for most machine tool companies. But also what you need is a strategy, a CAM system, which will help you implement that easily. So a barrel tool, in the simplest of terms, is a different way of finishing a surface rather than using a ball nose. For example, a ball nose seat or a 10mm ball nose, maybe it's a 0.2 step down, however minutes that's going to take you to finish one surface. If ideally you want to maybe do a 3, 4, 5mm step down, which means you need something like a huge 200mm diameter ball nose, not practical. What a conical ball nose does, conical barrel tool does, it takes, say, that diameter, and it takes an arc of that diameter, and if you can think of a small radius, that forms your flute. So you have a 10, 12, 16mm diameter tool with a flute radius of anything from 100mm to we've done 1500mm radius. And so you're basically using a 100mm diameter ball nose or a 1500mm diameter ball nose.
And I think that's the big thing, Mike, isn't it? When you're trying to visualize, if you haven't seen this, it can be difficult. Essentially, we've got a radius on the side of the tool rather than the bottom, and really, you're basically saying, we all know how a ball nose works, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 max, really, step down. But with this tool, we're talking about, what's that, a 1.5 meter radius on the side of the tool. And when you're talking, when you work at cusp heights and things, what's the drop down on a 1.5 meter radius?
It's all relevant to the applications. It's quite difficult to answer that question specifically, but it depends on the contact area on the flute of the radius and what kind of finish that company is looking for. Yeah, a 16mm can do 6, 8mm step downs if required. The bigger the step down, the bigger the cusp height. So you've got to consider the kind of finish that you're looking to achieve. So if it's semi-finishing, we can semi-finish. So we can reduce that cycle time on that surface, and then if you then need a better finish, we can use the same tool, less, maybe a 2mm.
Some of these savings, you see headline savings. We're in marketing, we've seen all these numbers before, but in barrel tools, you can save 90% of your finishing cycle time. You really can.
Absolutely. If you look at conical barrel tools, then there's a tangential barrel tool which has maybe an 80, 200mm radius. Then it gives you a different kind of contact surface area. I mean, we are going to arrange a masterclass at some time at the factory when we're all allowed to get out and about again. And we're going to arrange that with OpenMine, and we're going to put that into the factory. So there'll be a discussion and an introduction to barrel tool milling of all the different kinds, including lens tools, which are mostly for curved surfaces, where we'll have Adrian Smith has agreed to come along. He'll introduce it from the OpenMine perspective. We'll introduce it from the cutting tool perspective. And then we'll go down into the technical center where we have 2 machines there. We have a very nice Mazak J500 5X in there, which we will then run and prove a tool out. And then we'll go back up to the training center, discuss that, make some adjustments, go back down, and we'll run it again. So that's going to be over a 2-day period. We are thinking about whether we can do that online, but that's, again, someone's still got to be in there and keeping safe distances. But it won't happen for a while, but we're available all the time to discuss this and have Zoom or Skype chats.
Yeah, sure. So I'm just trying to think of components. I've seen these done on, prosthetic knee joints, which cobalt, chrome, or titanium, nasty materials. But equally, I've seen these done, and it's probably a bigger market for this is aerospace structural components. So whether that be titanium or aluminium, where you've got all this lightweighting, you've got big pockets of material that just needs to be removed. And they still, even though it's just for lightweighting, these guys do still require a finish.
Yeah, they do.
That's a massive market for this technology.
It really is. I mean, it is driven by what CAM system they've got in process and what their strategies are with this kind of tool. It depends how you define the tool when you're selecting the tool. If you've got a free-form drawing, that can be imported. I mean, we supply DXF files for companies to look at it. And the best thing is people shouldn't really ignore it. I mean, it's been around for a while. And the take-up in the UK is quite good. Export is very good for us in different countries, America and Italy particularly. But yeah, aerospace parts call out for it. The lighter structures are now, we can get into some very nice finishes as well on turbine blades, rotor blades and blisks. That's a market we're working very, very well at. We got a lot of die mold people who are using it now. You think if you have to produce any detrimental finish on a mold part is shown in the finished part, so finished product. So if you have to scan them, which can take a long, long time. Recently we had one part we looked at and we ended up with a 400 mil dia radius ball nose, and we looked at it and it was a saving of something like 34% saving.
Yeah, I can believe it. So we'll move on from barrel tools, but we'll call them barrel tools, various names for them.
Yeah.
We'll call them conical barrel tools. Yeah. Essentially, what we're doing, typically, it's a wall where there's an angle, a draft angle, whatever you want to call it, or a surface that you can't, because obviously you see some of these demos, and in truth, you can just use an end mill with a long edge, and it's much quicker than a barrel tool. But anyone who's got some sort of draft angle on a mold or something where you've having to ball nose to finish, you're gonna save minimum of 70%.
Yeah, and
minimum
if you think
70%, just purely because you're taking considerably less step downs, basically.
Yeah. And if you consider as well, we're getting products where you can't actually physically get the end mill in without having a long series tool or a long series extension, which of course that reduces your ability for cutting data is going to drop down. So with a barrel tool, you can kick it over on a 5-axis and have a shorter tool in a stubbier holder and still get good access. The shorter the tool, the better the finish.
Sure. Since we've been working with Quickgrind, which is probably 3 or 4 years now, nice little plug for MTD here, but a lot of people are asking me about Quickgrind now because your words, we're the best kept secret. More and more people are finding out, and I'm stumbling across tools that I didn't even know you did. I know you're having a lot of success with the new Cayman tool, so maybe let's talk a little bit about that.
The Cayman is a 3-flute high-performance tool for cutting the sort of 600, 700 series aluminiums. So the aerospace, motorsport industries particularly use a lot of that. When I first started, when we went out into the UK market, we were looking more at the more harder wearing materials, so the titaniums, the Inconels, the stainlesses, partly because a massive part of our business is remanufacture, where we want tools to wear out, not break, send it back to us, we remanufacture, which is it's a high spec regrind system that we'd have. We recoat and we send them back, and the company can get 5 or 6 uses out of the tool, something like that. So every tool we make it with a view for remanufacture. We will obviously remanufacture other people's tools as well. But what it then developed to know was a good success for us, and we had a range of aluminium tools that we would make for companies, and we looked at it, and with trochoidal milling type of strategies, we could have done with a tool with a stronger flute, if you like. So we've got your standard aluminium tool with a very thin radial relief, but we've got a radial and secondary relief on it, so that in the flute, so that it gives more strength and stability. So we've got people now, we've pushed these things up to silly step overs and trochoidal milling, but 25% plus. But these things are lasting, and they're lasting very, very well. Too well in some cases. They don't buy enough. But yeah, it's working really well. So that tool as well, we've developed it so that we have chip breakers in it, because if you're trochoidal milling, you would say a 16 mil, 32, 38, 40, 50 mil flute. If you're going that depth, that's a lot of swarf length. So put a chip break in, break it up. The augers can handle it better for dispersal of the swarf.
And that's worth noting. We talk about aluminium tools. You rightly mentioned they do last a long time, but if they do fail, it tends to be in aerospace components where there's pockets and you're bearing the tool as you engage in a full flute length. And when you go into a corner, the swarf gets trapped, it wraps around you, you're cutting your own swarf. And even aluminium, that's good. So what we're saying with the Cayman, it comes with chip breakers and obviously rectifies that potential hazard anyway.
Absolutely. And of course, through coolant, we can blow those chips away as well. So that's all good. And we have a new version of, it's a diamond light coating, but it's more than a diamond light. And it's a 5,000 Vickers hardness surface, very, very low coefficient of friction. And it's very thin. It keeps the sharpness of the tool. And the best thing of that is very easily regrindable and recoating. So that's another option if needed. Don't always need it, but it's options.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you about some of the other things you do. Obviously, in terms of cutting tools, you do the full range of cutting tools, solid carbide from pretty much any material, any requirement. So obviously, they can come and get in touch with you guys should they want to learn more. Let's talk about the programming services you've got. And I know you've got an arm called Quickgrind. The clue is in the name. But just quickly, just give us a quick breakdown of your different pillars within the business.
Sure, yeah. So we have a cycle of departments within the company. So Quick Vend is vending machines. So that's vending solutions. Like everything we do, we like to tailor make what we do. So we have a soon-to-be released own software system for it and control system for it, which means we can tailor the reporting more easily to what and structure around what the company's drivers are and what they need. So if we liken it to stock on a local basis, so it's better off having the stock in rather than our factory. We'd rather put it into the client's factory. This works around the world very, very well. We also do vending machines for remanufactured tools, so it keeps the flow and the cycle going. Huge savings, 40-50% reduction in spend at times, which is great. And we also have a compact vending machine, which you can either use for 24 spirals in there, so locations, so you can position that in cells if you like. So you've got a main vending hub and then cells with the compacts around the area. It means everyone's got stock where they need it. We've also got Cookcam, which is our sort of tooling and strategy optimized toolpath development. It's run by John Butler. He's manager of the applications department. So we'll do tooling optimizations, design tools around the applications, strategy optimizations, just getting the cycle time down. Once we know what the parameters that the client wants to work to, then we can work with them for the tool, the strategy. So that's a big part of our new part of our business, and that's where the tech center was developed, so that we can. It's difficult to prove a part at a client's place. That means they've got to stop production. So we've got a Quasar 3-axis and 5-axis Mazak that we can run virtually most parts on and prove it out before we take it to the client and say, here we are, run it on yours.
That must be popular. There's a lot of places you go now that it's pretty much you can't do trials. When I used to sell tools, you get 90% of the machines you could get on, whereas now it's no, can't do this. Essentially they're almost blocking tooling trials, which seems a bit crazy. The fact that you've got a machine on site, again, a massive advantage. You can send the part, the program, the tools, the strategy, everything.
Absolutely. It's become a great success for us, and Ross and Eddie took the decision that let's invest in what we need to forward the business and work closer with our clients. And you always look at what is the stumbling block to proceed. So this was an area that needed to be sort of resolved. And so when John joined us, could be 5 years ago, could be now, that was one of the first things he said, we've got to be able to do this. And it's worked very, very well. So we get clients all around the world sending us models of their components with the strategies they're doing now. And John, he runs Open Mind software to create the programs. He can prove it out on the machine. And then obviously John spends a lot of time in different countries, America, Canada, South America, Italy, Germany, wherever it is. So to take the tooling back in, prove it out on their machine, develop it there. And it works really, really well. And obviously that within the UK, it's a lot easier because we can get around a lot easier. But companies are taking us up on these offers more and more, to the extent that, it's been quite an exciting time for John. He's got an assistant, Charlie, in there now. so that you can, if you work offline, send the programs down to Charlie, you can run the trials and feedback. It's an option that is open for any of our clients.
Just a final one from me. As good as you are, Mike, you don't want to be traveling the UK on your own. How do you cover the UK now in terms of sales support, and how do people find more about any of your products?
Yeah, well, what we've done, it's taken a little while. You need to find the right people. So we've got 4 of us out doing the technical sales support now. So we've got Graham Hogg, he works in the Northeast, plus Scotland, and bless him, plus Northern Ireland and Ireland. So it spreads in. That's developing really, really well. We are looking for someone in Ireland to help out them all there as that business develops. But then we've got Mark Aspinall, he works in the Northwest corridor. So if you look sort of from up north of Birmingham upwards, and so Northwest is developing really well now. And we've got James Hunter, he works in the Midlands area. And again, that's working out very well now in the last 3-4 months, possibly. We've got a full coverage. So I look after the south of England and parts of sort of key accounts around the factory. Still scope for more. You never rest on your laurels. You still look for new challenges, new opportunities. As I said before, the factory always invests ahead of requirement, so we've got more than adequate capabilities. And we've tied up with GTMA just recently. We've always been a member, and they put a shout out for people to help with the ventilator production. So we've offered our services to them, and we're now in the medical cluster group. We're able to support anyone and are supporting companies with tooling for that. And on that respect, we offer a deal on that. We're not looking to take advantage of that situation. We just want to help everybody work together. We've got to get out of this situation together. So for us, we're open for supporting whoever needs support in that respect.
Yeah, well, it sounds good. We need all the help we can get on that one, don't we? But yeah, no. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, Mike. It's been an education. I will say, obviously, podcast being a podcast, they can't see what we're talking about, but I do urge the MTD audience to go onto our website and look at some of the videos we've done for Quickgrind. We've done product development ones, so some of you barrel milling. Barrel milling is difficult to picture in your head, but we've done a number of videos now on barrel milling, both from an open mind perspective and obviously Quickgrind as well. And we did the Swarf and Chip show from, I think it's been viewed about 20,000 times now. So that's obviously gone down well. But again, I urge people to go to that Swarf and Chips on our website and type in Quickgrind. You'll find it fairly easily. And it just shows you the nature of your business, the technical center. It's exactly as the name would suggest, but obviously you've got 20-odd CNC grinders, highly automated. You really should be watching the program. But Mike, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it, and we'll catch up again soon. Yeah,
thanks very much, and thanks for your support. It really has made a big difference to a company we work with, MTDCNC. So, yeah, come and find us, whoever is listening.
Thanks, Mike, and have a great day.
Thank you, Lance.
Thanks for listening to the MTD Podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on MTDCNC.com.